Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I am your humble host, Kevin Kietzman, cruising my way into a summer weekend. It is the first day of summer upon us. The summer solstice is what they call it. Is that right? Tomorrow's the longest day of the year. If every day could be June 21st, I'd be the happiest guy ever.
That would be awesome.
All the sunshine, all the warmth, all the everything. It's going to be a cooker out there this weekend, but not like a lot of places. So enjoy. We will start the show today with a correction from yesterday. Your idiot host thought Country Stampede started last night. It does not. It starts next week. So we're going to give away more tickets today, which is awesome. So be listening at 10:45 today to hear your chance for the seventh caller to win tickets to Country Stampede next weekend at Azure Amphitheater. It's Luke Bryan, Cole Swindell, Miranda Lambert, good stuff. So apologize for the mistake yesterday. I was making a big deal about how great of a weekend it was going to be. I don't know the weather for next weekend. I just know it's a great weekend to be outside this weekend, and we will do that. Coming up in a little bit, we got some great topics today, including we've learned the identity of the lady that freaked out on the Southwest flight at LaGuardia headed to Kansas City. This was one of the all-time freakouts by any passenger ever on an airplane. And we've been asking, is she one of us? If you're dying to know if she's from Kansas City, we'll let you know in just a little while on Uncanceled. This is a crazy story if you haven't heard it. We'll talk a little bit about Donald Trump and his assessment yesterday that Iran has 2 weeks to negotiate a deal. Maybe that's the maximum they have. Maybe not, depending on what happens between now and then. It's pretty obvious Trump wants to do a deal and not lob missiles at Iran, and we'll spend some time with that. And Mark is back, so we'll have some fun with Mark, of course, as we always do. And I'm going to start doing a thing. I think we'll maybe start calling it, Kevin from Lenexa, because Pete always asks the best questions for callers, and I don't get to call in. So I'm going to answer his question about holidays later today. And I know Mark chimed in on a little bit on how many holidays we should get rid of. Trump wants to get rid of at least 2 holidays. I've got the best answer, so stick around for that one. We'll start today with a pet peeve. Actually, this would fit on a Tirade Tuesday. That would work on Pete's show as well. But I just keep hearing it over and over and over, and it drives me crazy when I hear Republicans use the term illegal immigrants. I just want to throw up. Why we fall into a trap and let Democrats change the words that we use, the lexicon, the jargon, what's proper, what's not about somebody, it's the best thing Democrats do. It's the best bullet in their chamber. They get us to say things like illegal immigrants. These are illegal aliens. And there's no arguing it. I went to Webster's today and I looked it up. I looked up immigrant. And immigrants are legal in America. We're one of the great countries on earth. We allow immigrants. Some countries don't. We do. We're great like that. We were built on immigrants that came in legally because an immigrant, by definition, is legal. If they're here, they're emigrating to America as an immigrant here. An immigrant, Webster says, is a person that is a permanent settlement to citizenship. That's what they're there. They are legal in America. By definition, an immigrant is legal. You cannot put illegal in front of an immigrant. You can only be an immigrant in America if our country allows you to be an immigrant. There are laws that apply and have always applied. By definition, you're an illegal alien. Webster's defines an alien as owing political allegiance to another country or government. You're dissimilar, you're strange, you're different. Does that look like the riots in LA to you? I want you to think of the people that you've seen in the country's flags that you've seen waving in Los Angeles. The definition of an alien is owing political allegiance to another country or government. You're dissimilar, you're strange, and you're different than where you are. That is the person is here illegally, and they're an alien. They are not an immigrant. An immigrant is permanent. You have come here with the destination in mind to become a citizen. Most illegal aliens in this country do not come here even thinking about becoming citizens. They come here on a work visa for 9 months or something and stay 14 years and hope they don't get caught. But they will go home. They don't care about assimilating. They don't care about learning the language. They don't give a damn about the United States, the Constitution, the rights, whatever. They're just here to make more money, send it home, live a better life. And if they grow old and die while they're here, great. They're not even trying to assimilate and become citizens. That's my beef with all this. When you let all these people in, and anyone that comes here and commits a crime after they're here, clearly is not interested in becoming a citizen. You are no longer an immigrant. You can't. First of all, you're not an immigrant when you're here unless we know you're here, and we know you're on a path to citizenship. By definition, you can't be an immigrant unless you're doing it that way. But then when you commit a crime, we know you're not interested in being a citizen. You're just here to raise hell. You're here to steal, pillage, rape, murder, or maybe you're a peaceful person just here to get as much money as you can and do whatever you can with it while you can, and you still don't like this country. You love where you're from. Your allegiance is to that flag and to those people in that government, and your money's going home. We have hundreds of billions of dollars, probably maybe even into the trillions, that leave our country every year. Money that is made here and not spent here. We've allowed these people in. We can talk about what it's done to our economy, but when this money stays in America, imagine what that will do for us. If I come in illegally and I leave my family at home and I work here, and these people travel back and forth, they have passports. They can go back and forth. I don't know how it all works, but we all know people in our lives that have been here a long time. They're hard workers. They make money, and they send it home. Let's say a dude makes $50,000 a year working here. I don't know what he does, whatever. At least, and most of it's not paying tax on it. It's cashed at a bank somewhere or at Walmart. They got a big sign right there in Walmart. They couldn't put the sign up more plainly. We'll cash anything for any illegal alien right here. Just let us know. We'll get you cash because they take a cut. And then the cash goes in a box or an envelope and gets mailed back to the country of the person's origin for the wife, the kids, whatever. Now, there's honor in what they're doing. I'm not saying that's a bad person. There's dignity in that. They came here to work, make more money, and take care of their family. But that's not the way immigration works. That's still an illegal alien that is doing something that I think we should just declare unlawful. Unless you're a citizen, you shouldn't be able to use you shouldn't be able to send money out of this country somewhere else. To me, that's money laundering. That's the same as these white-collar criminals that commit these crimes and do things. Fraud, wire fraud, money laundering. What's the difference? I'm here illegally. You don't know I'm here. I'm making money. I'm cashing it, and I'm mailing it to Colombia or El Salvador or Mexico or wherever. Where do we win on that deal? What does America get out of that? Some company gets a worker for less money? Big deal. Hire an American. Let's pay him more. I got no problem with that. I'm not worried about inflation. Inflation's going to happen anyway. Someday a Democrat's going to win, and we're going to get massive record-setting inflation again. Let's not worry about that. Let's get American citizens working in those jobs. And if somebody comes here legally and wants to become a citizen, let's make that more of a fast-track deal. Let's not hold people for 17 years before they become citizens. What I don't understand is how easy it was for, and maybe there's an unfair system and you can tell me, how easy it was for Salvador Perez of the Royals. He gets here. He's thrilled to be out of Venezuela, a war-torn country. He looks around America and goes, dang, this is really good. He learns English and tells the Royals, I want to be a citizen. And he's been a citizen for many years now. 7 or 8 years. He was a citizen by probably age 27. After getting here at age 20, that's not a big hurdle, and I don't think he wanted to be a citizen the first 5 years. He went back and forth to Venezuela on work visas, which Major League Baseball will do for you. Then he's like, I want to live there and I want to move my mom there. I want my family to be raised in America, not Venezuela. Does he still love Venezuela? Does his mom? Yes. Is he American through and through? Absolutely. And Salvador Perez will tell you that because he wanted to become a citizen. The people that have become citizens, I don't hear a lot of them telling 30-year stories. Oh, it took me 30 years to become a citizen. The people that I know that came and became citizens did it pretty quickly. There's a way in the system to get it done over a short number of years. If you want to do this, you can do it. My thought is most people coming in here are just flat out not interested in being American, and we're seeing that in the streets. The people that are literally protesting about illegal aliens and immigration and the crackdown and sending the criminals home, if this is their beef, they're all doing it the wrong way. And I'm not talking about the protests. They're here for the wrong reasons. They are not here to become one of us. And I don't know why we can't change this narrative, but as long as Republicans go on TV or do interviews and say illegal immigrant instead of illegal alien, we're going to lose this war. We're going to lose this battle of words because they're painting these people as peace-loving people that want to come here and become a citizen. And the overwhelming majority of them do not want to be citizens. They're not interested. They really don't care about America, except there's jobs here and more money. That's it. They want to use us. We're getting played. 913-408-7957 is the number to call if you'd like to join us. It's the Dodgers and what happened at Dodger Stadium yesterday that set me off on this thing, because the Dodgers are all in. We'll take your calls. I'll explain what they did, why it was wrong, and why the reverse could never happen next on Uncanceled. All right, we're back. We're headed to the phone lines here in a moment, and stick around for your chance to win Country Stampede tickets. We'll do that somewhere around 10:45. Be listening. The Dodgers yesterday put a post out on social media that they turned away Customs and Border Patrol agents that were in their parking lot and said, we denied them entry to the Dodgers stadium. This is hours and hours and hours before a game. What happened, truthfully, was Customs and Border Patrol agents decided they were going to meet, and several vehicles pulled off the road and into the edge of a parking lot like you've seen. Well, I used to see it all the time. We'd go out and cover sports at the Truman Sports Complex hours before Royals games, and occasionally there'd be like 5 Kansas City, Missouri police officer cars sitting by the entrance that haven't really started their shift yet or whatever. They're hanging out. We've seen that. That's what they were doing. And then Homeland Security literally had to put a post out that said Customs and Border Patrol in the parking lot briefly at Dodger Stadium today, unrelated to any operation or enforcement. And the Dodgers were quick to post that they were bragging that they sent these people away. The Dodgers also previously announced that they were going to do everything they could to help illegal aliens remain in Los Angeles. Why? Well, you can answer that one easily. So they can buy tickets and come to Dodger games and boost the television ratings on TV and things like that. So the Dodgers are all in. Imagine the last 4 years under Joe Biden if the Chiefs and Royals said, no, we're going to start doing IDs. We need to see your valid driver's license at the gate or you're not coming into our game. In protest for an open border. Sorry, you're an illegal alien. You can't come in. What if the reverse of this stuff can never happen. Why is that? Why do we always lose this narrative? The reverse couldn't happen. They'd file lawsuits against the Chiefs or Royals for requiring IDs, which they have the right to do. Any business can, refuse service based on so many different things. And I would think one of them would be citizenship, ID, whatever. We have to know who you are. If you don't have a valid ID, you can't come in. That seems reasonable. Also seems reasonable in an election. They do it to get on an airplane. Why can't they do it to get into a ball game where we certainly have crimes committed inside ball games? But that reverse is never active and true. Yet the Dodgers get away with this, playing politics, bragging that they sent the CBP away. And I'm just astounded that they get away with things like this. They do. All right, let's go to the phones. And here is Paul in Overland Park this morning on Uncanceled. Hi, Paul. Good morning.
Hi, Kevin. Hey, I'm glad you're addressing this issue about business owners making money and taking it out of the country. My wife and I were in a restaurant a couple of years ago, and Mexican restaurant, upper scale food and so forth. And the owner was actually out on the floor, promoting dishes, actually taking orders, very eclectic guy. And he told us that he was basically, somehow we got talking about business and so forth. And he told us about taking money back to his family in Mexico. And
right.
There was some statistic that I heard a number of years ago that Mexico was up. I don't want to say the number, without double checking it, but in the upper 20 of richest countries in the world. And so just think about that. If that money would be recirculated in the United States instead of taken out of this country.
Well, Trump's made a big point of letting everybody know that Canada exists because of the United States, that we have a $200 billion trade deficit with Canada, and that if we pulled that away from them, they'd go broke. They'd be done. So essentially, the economic engine that is the American consumer supports Mexico and Canada. They'd both collapse if they didn't have the money coming in from the U.S. There's no question.
Right. And I mean, a good thing for the guy, I don't know what it takes to own a business here like that, whether he has to be a citizen or just the working green card or whatever it is. Good for him for doing that. But yeah, just some sort of thing about the money.
I guarantee you the number that they have is low. And thank you for a great call. This is an estimate that they have. There's no way of knowing how much cash gets sent out of this country. There's just no way of knowing it, what gets sent home to where somebody lives. And I'm mostly was talking about workers, not business owners, but the business owners do the same thing. Here is Stephen in KCK. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hey, Kevin, I'm glad you're talking about this Dodger issue. I was following this story yesterday. It seems like what's happening down there, we backed off the restaurants and the ag meat plants and the Home Depots a little bit, and and there's no 3,000 arrests a month or whatever. They're not requiring that. But what's happening is the activists are tipping off the people that are getting picked up at the Home Depot, and that's what happened at the Dodgers. Apparently, that they were staging an operation.
They were
and
not.
Then people. Okay, well,
They were
I
not.
don't know.
They absolutely were not. There was
stories.
no operation. There was absolutely no operation
Okay.
at the Dodgers. It was some agents that pulled over off the busy roads, and they were meeting for a few minutes or taking a break or maybe having a donut. I don't know what they were doing, but there was no operation. Their cars were clustered right by the entrance where you pull in. There was no operation.
I know there was no operation in Dodger Stadium, but they were saying that they could have been staging and see the activists are tipping
now,
them.
Steven,
Tipping
you're
them
letting
off
them.
when they
You're
go to
letting them
Home
do.
Depot.
You don't fall for this. If ICE and the CBP are going to Dodger Stadium to bust employees that work for the Dodgers or something going on around Dodger Stadium, do you think they're going to hang out 9 hours before first pitch at the edge of the parking lot and show themselves? That is not. That is not how an operation works.
My point is isn't it illegal if they're even if they're doing something else? They weren't going to Dodger Stadium for anything except to stage another to try and have a donut before they go to Home Depot. But isn't this illegal for them to be running interference, for all these protesters to be running interference for picking up the illegals at Home Depot?
What should be illegal is the Dodgers posting what they posted. That's interfering with law enforcement. That's what should be illegal.
Well, I think there's a huge problem with we've got a huge problem with a network of people that are making money off these businesses, and now they're going to run just like these legislatures trying to get arrested. We've got to be a lot tighter with operation.
All right, good call, Steve. I'm going to stop you there. We're getting close to break, but good call as always, man. I appreciate that. Here's where we're losing it. It is things like saying illegal immigrant instead of illegal alien. But the real thing is nobody says this, and you just got to shout this from the mountaintop. This is democracy. The man was elected by a majority of people, an electoral college win as well. His number one thing was, I'm closing the border, we're kicking people out, okay? This is democracy. We have laws on the books. Does anybody want to tell the Democrats there are laws? This is not some evil, nefarious thing. They're simply enforcing the law. Deal with it. That's where we are. Uncanceled continues. We're just a few minutes away from your chance to win Country Stampede tickets next weekend at Azura Amphitheater in Bonner Springs. That's going to be a great weekend of shows, so stick around for that. I got a whole bunch of little stories here to fit into this segment. I think you're going to like it. We're going to start with the crazy lady that was on the Southwest Airlines flight. If you haven't seen the video, there were pictures initially, and you really couldn't see what this lady looked like very much. She's in a seat. She's clearly on something, whether it was drunk or drugs or whatever, and she's starting to freak out. And she turns around and she gets on the lady behind her, calling her a fat lady that's never going to ever have a boyfriend or have sex again the rest of her life. And then she gets on a man who tells him he hasn't had sex in 30 years and every other word's an F-bomb. And this lady's kicking and screaming, and the Southwest flight attendants get her down onto the aisle on her back where she's happy now to kind of be half passed out, but she's kicking at the flight attendants. It's unbelievable. When the pictures first came out, you could sort of see she had a red hat on. This flight was from LaGuardia to Kansas City, and it had not taken off yet. So she got inside the tube, all hammered on something, and got claustrophobic or weird and crazy. The Southwest flight attendants were fantastic. The authorities came on and got her off, but not before she went absolutely berserk. It was one of the all-time meltdowns on an meltdowns you've ever seen on an airplane. When I saw the photo of her with this red hat on, I'm like, okay, LaGuardia to Kansas City on Southwest. Oh boy, does this woman live in my neighborhood? Does she live in your neighborhood? I figure most flights into Kansas City are at least 50% Kansas City, and so there's a reasonable chance. We have now learned that the crazy lady, who they said they took to the hospital for evaluation first, and then to the New York Correctional Facility, is Leanna Perry, 32 years old, from New York City. Thank you. Well, we're glad Leanna didn't make it here. I don't know if she has relatives here or friends here and was visiting, but we're happy that she didn't get off at KCI because, well, she's nuts. And that one went crazy. She's going to spend some time in jail for that. That's a real crime. The airplane in Johnson County this week at New Century Air, they have decided this was not pilot error or anything like that. It was a mechanical issue. The left engine went out. He veered to the left as he was landing. He hits the corner of the hangar, and the plane spins 180 degrees and stays on the roof. And they're not hurt. They climb out, and then they get a ladder and come off the roof of the hangar. They go to the hospital to be checked out, but they weren't seriously injured at all. I bring this up because they have now officially ruled mechanical failure. This was not a pilot error or any sort of a terrorist thing like that. And I had dinner last night with one of my podcast sponsor clients, great couple. He's an entrepreneur, and she's a doctor. They're amazing people. And we're sitting there. He's also a pilot of small planes. And he was talking about how he's trying to get his instrument rating at this point. And he had a beautiful day flying yesterday because there wasn't much wind. And I was asking about this, and he hadn't seen it. And I showed him. I said, was that landing or taking off? He goes, you know what? It could be either. And he was looking at it he's like, that's the perfect plane crash. You walk away unhurt. You tell your insurance company you need a new airplane. He's like, this is the best thing ever. You couldn't, as a pilot, if you were going to have a crash, you couldn't script it any better. We were literally making jokes about it, but we're glad those people are safe. This guy's not safe. He's going to be in prison a long time. His name is Grzegorz Vandenberg. He is 48 years old, and he was driving through New Mexico this week. And I've driven through New Mexico many times. They do have the largest fireworks stand you've ever seen all over the interstates in New Mexico. I think you can probably buy things in New Mexico you can't get other places. I don't know. This guy stops at one of these mega fireworks stores and walks in and says, I'm looking for the best things that I can shoot as a target at, like a target, like a human, like anything. Like he's looking for fireworks to go to Los Angeles to the riots and shoot at the cops. That's what this guy wants to do. So he's talking to him at the counter about which ones I can turn sideways. I know how to make pipe bombs. I can do different things. What would be good? Like, what kind of crazy person is driving through New Mexico, headed for Southern California, telling the people at the fireworks stand that you want things that you can do this to, and he befriends the guy that works there, that's the expert about the pyrotechnics and stuff, right? And then asks him, do you want to come to L.A. with me? I'm going to go to the protests and shoot these at cops. I guess they let him buy a whole bunch of stuff and then got his license plate and car description, immediately called the New Mexico Highway Patrol and said, yeah, there's a guy there. He's headed to L.A., and they apprehended him fairly quickly, the feds did, and they have him in custody. What kind of there's dumb criminals, but you're going in to buy fireworks and you're telling people you're going to L.A. to shoot them? Not very smart. Grzegorz Vandenberg, nice work. This is a guy you may have heard of. His name's Pavel Durov. He's 40 years old. He's a Russian billionaire. And he started Telegram, a company called Telegram, the CEO of Telegram. And he's worth $14 billion. As a side business, he has a sperm clinic. You thought Elon Musk has been busy fathering children. Durov is 40 years old, and he has over 100 children. And he has now stated there's a 30-year running clock for when he turns 70. He will disperse, at that point, most of his fortune to however many kids he has at that time equally. None of them will be treated any differently, but they got to wait 30 years. And he's decided he's going to do this. Why he's bringing that up, and of course he can change his mind over the next 30 years, is beyond me. And what he's doing, I don't know. Sounds to me like this guy may wind up with hundreds of children if he keeps his sperm clinic and starts donating. But I'm going to guess it's pretty popular. He is, I'll say it, I'm not afraid of my masculinity. He's exceptionally good looking. I said, hey, listen, I spent most of the week talking about how exceptionally good looking Sophie Cunningham is. So I can say it about a man. I'm okay. I'm comfortable in my own shoes. This guy's good looking and he's got billions. And if his sperm's sitting in his sperm bank, ladies, you can do a lot worse. It sounds like there's some money on the back end of that one. And Donald Trump came out yesterday and said, we're going to make a decision in the next 2 weeks on exactly what we're going to do with Iran. This after the media freaked out that it was about to happen. It was imminent because he made a decision. He approved a plan of what they're going to do. The plan is approved, but he's not ordered it done yet. He hasn't activated it. He hasn't given the go-ahead. That's a big difference. And they're kind of weird like that in the media. They don't really care. They just, he approved something. This is imminent. It's going to happen. No, it may not. Like, we've never had a president so anti-aggression and anti-war than Donald Trump. He really doesn't want to hurt anybody. He'd love to peacefully send these illegal aliens home. But if he's got to use the National Guard, he's going to use the National Guard. And if he has to drop the bunker buster into that Iranian facility, he'll do it. And maybe that's what Iran wants. And maybe the Ayatollah there knows that his regime is toppling, that he will not stay in power, and this way he goes out a martyr. I don't think Trump wants to kill him. I don't think he wants to kill those people who really changed the regime. I think he'd be thrilled if it were changed. But he mostly wants no nuclear weapons available to the Ayatollah Khomeini. And so I got an email from one of my podcast listeners that was fantastic. We were talking about this on the podcast, and he said, Kevin, if you don't know, my wife is like the biggest Top Gun fan ever. She likes the original better than Maverick, but she loves Maverick too, the remake from a couple of years ago. And so I got this from David, who is a tremendous listener. He's got an organization called hillcrestplatte.org. They run a thrift shop. It's a charity. They do great work in Platte City. They're awesome. David sent me this email. Said, Kevin, I was watching Top Gun 2 for the 15th time or so a couple of nights ago. I put it on because I was thinking that the movie pretty much nails exactly what's going on in Iran right now. While I have no idea if there are pilots training for a mission, I can certainly see this happening. Let's go through what I've seen on X the last few days. A rogue nation, of course, in the movie they don't say it's Iran, but this gentleman believes it was Iran, is close to completing a uranium enrichment plant under a mountain. In Top Gun, we have to go in and blow it up with the Air Force and jets, much like you would do with a bunker buster. Doesn't this seem like Top Gun 2 is playing out in real life? I think that's just fantastic. Listeners are the best, man. And I agree with him. And I'm not trying to make light of what's going on with any of this. But yeah, now that I think about it, I came away from Top Gun 2 thinking it was about China, but China already had nuclear weapons. So I probably shouldn't have been, because they portrayed the enemy as a really high-tech country. It was also a generic country. They didn't want to give up anything about it. Like, you never saw the faces of the other pilots or anything going on in the other country. It was a nameless, faceless opponent for the United States. And they do that because they want the movie to be able to be sold elsewhere. If you say it's the Chinese, well, the movie's not going to be shown in China. You can't make any money in China if you do that. So I understand why they do it. It's a little lame. I used to like it in the 90s and early 2000s where the Russians were always the bad guys. That was easy. And why can't we do that now? Like, I think Die Hard movies had bad Russians or something, right? So many movies, the Russians were the bad guys. And America gobbled those up. But they don't like to do that now. This guy says he's pretty sure it was Iran as he looks back on it. And that absolutely could be the case. I won't say that I know one way or the other. All right, let's give away some Country Stampede tickets right now. Seventh caller, 913-408-7957. That is Country Stampede next weekend at Azura Amphitheater. 913-408-7957. Mark Van Parley is standing by to take your calls, and you may get a 3-day pass for you and someone to go with you for 3 days and get the most good music you can possibly get. We appreciate that. We also appreciate our friends at bestofferkc.com for sponsoring Uncanceled. Mark Delatour has become a very good friend. He's a great guy, and it is meaningful that he has a business within his several businesses. This guy's an entrepreneur. He's in real estate. They've got a lot of different things they do in real estate. Bestofferkc.com is one of them, and he started that within his real estate company because he saw what was happening to so many good people in his community that were getting ripped off by other companies doing the same thing. That's literally why he started it. And said, we can help people in a better way. We can do things like never back out of an offer. Never. They've never once done that. We can do things like lend them money to help them move before the house closes. And they will do that. If you're in a really tricky situation and need to move, especially if it's like out of state, you have costs involved, they'll lend you the money before the house closes. Nobody does that in this industry. Bestofferkc.com is completely different, maybe than anyone else in America, but certainly different than anyone in Kansas City. That's why they say they're helping you leave the hassle behind. And the key word is helping you in what you need to do no matter what your situation is. If you don't want to show your home, only thing you have to do is let one representative from Best Offer KC take a look at it and then make an offer. That's it. They'll clean it out for you. They'll refurbish. They'll do whatever needs to be done to get it sold. BestOfferKC.com, helping you leave the hassle behind. Congratulations to Pam in Fontana, Kansas. She has won the tickets to Country Stampede next weekend at Azura Amphitheater, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Way to go, Pam. Congratulations to you. That is awesome. Let's talk about a couple of women here in our final segment. And Mark's going to join us here in a second as well. Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman, changed a post yesterday on social media on Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the holiday where we celebrate the last Democrat governor that had slaves, and those slaves being freed because of a Republican president. That's what we celebrate. That's what Juneteenth is, right? Finally getting the slaves out of the Democrat control because of a Republican president. That's indeed what Juneteenth is. All right, so Ilhan Omar makes a post about slaves and them being freed and just gets roasted because she's from Somalia and often talks about Somalia being better than America. Somalia still has slaves. And she takes that down. And then she changes her post to something like, freedom is not always swift, and never use the word slavery. These people are such frauds. It really, truly is remarkable. The flip side of that is the wonderful, beautiful, and lovely Sophie Cunningham, the star basketball player from the University of Missouri that plays for Indiana and is a teammate with Caitlin Clark. We've been following all the bullying of Caitlin Clark and all the racism in the WNBA that exists by the old guard of that league. They don't like this change, and they're really going to hate it now. Because Sophie Cunningham, who defended her teammate and basically tackled hard the lady on the other team that had poked her in the eye and all that stuff, has become a cult hero across the country for standing up for her teammate, Caitlin. After the game, when she left the arena, I mean, you cannot believe how beautiful Sophie Cunningham looked. She dresses sexy and the whole thing, and she's Christian, wears a cross. It's classy enough. She's not going to have some OnlyFans page or something weird like that. This is Sophie Cunningham. Mark, her jersey is sold out. She has 1 million new followers. She is easily the second most popular player in the WNBA now, and I think there's a chance she could make more money than Caitlin Clark before it's all over.
This is one of the stories that I actually saw when I was on vacation.
I'll bet you did.
It was everywhere.
It was everywhere.
I couldn't get away from it. But yeah, I guess she got a black belt when she was 6 years old. She played high school football, and now she's Caitlin Clark's security. It's pretty sweet.
I love it. She's the henchwoman. That's what I call her. Henchwoman. And she is just drop dead gorgeous. Is she not?
She is.
And I think that's really what's going on. And let me say this, because it sounds sexist to a lot of people when dudes on the radio talk like this. But it's not. This happens in all kinds of other sports. Jack Caglione came up for the Royals. And I don't even want to get into the things that my wife has said about Jack Caglione already. She's twice his age, more than that. Like, stop, will you? We went to a game. She's got her phone out. She's zooming in, taking pictures of him while he's playing first base. I'm like, are you serious?
I was there. I saw it.
Right. And then she loves the football games when the players come in before the game. Her favorite thing is the hour and a half before noon kickoff, scrolling through Instagram, looking at all the boys walking in and all their fancy threads. Yep. She loves it. So this goes both ways. We're not being sexist. Sophie Cunningham knows that, and she's going to capitalize on that, and I say good for her. All right, Pete Mundo asked the question earlier today. We got to get rid of 2 holidays. What would they be? We're going to maybe just start calling this segment, Kevin from Lenexa. So I'm going to be a caller for a second to Pete's show, and then we'll get Mark's take on this. He got his chance earlier today a little bit on this one. Look, there's a bunch of dumb holidays, and I agree with Trump. There's too many of them, and I don't think we should split hairs here. Let's take all the dopey ones. Juneteenth, Columbus Day, MLK, President's Day. I heard him bashing on Labor Day. Maybe not Labor Day. If we have to lump it in, I guess we can. I like Labor Day because if people don't know, the reason it started was because of how many people died. It's really a memorial day to people who died building this country when there was no work safety at all. You can say it's celebrating unions, whatever, but we lost an enormous number of people in this country building skyscrapers, railroads, bridges. It was not safe to work. People literally risked their lives every single day to build this country, and I think Labor Day is okay, but that's me. Let's take all these dopey things, and let's get rid of whatever we got to get rid of. Let's lump them into one day, and let's call it, first I thought Americans, with an N, Americans Day, but maybe we should just call it Citizens Day. And you can celebrate on that day whatever your grievance is, whatever your celebration is, whatever your thing is, right? If it's Martin Luther King, great. Citizens Day can be, for him, you can have your rally at a park somewhere and do your thing. Whatever it is, Citizens Day. And there is a perfect day for this. It's the Monday after the Super Bowl. There's my mic drop, Mark. Knock a hole in it.
I like it. People want President's Day to be that day, but like you said, you can lump it in. So you can do whatever you want with those days. I do like your idea on that. I just say I like all the holidays. That's a bad take by me.
Right.
I like every holiday. I think that me and John were kind of talking off there about this. I almost want one once a month, one per month, so we can get 12 total. I don't know how we're going to get to that, but that's what I think that we should do.
Okay, well, Trump's point is we're not working enough.
See, I think we work plenty.
Well, maybe we do.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
I think
I
mostly,
just took a little time off, so maybe I shouldn't be talking.
And I think he didn't clarify, but I think mostly what he's talking about is government work.
I think, that's correct.
There's too many bank holidays, government holidays, whatever.
Mhm.
Banks close because why? They're regulated by the feds?
I think that's
lame.
Yeah.
They just want days off too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he makes a point. I'd love to see the numbers. He says we're losing billions by doing this. I'd like to see that. I'd like to know how. I'm not sure I can figure out how we're losing money.
Could be a part of Doge, maybe.
Maybe. How did we lose money on Juneteenth yesterday? I don't know. But again, this is another case where liberals went too far with a good thing. We had holidays for reasons, and they went too far. And I think for a lot of people, Juneteenth is just too far and don't understand why, we do that or whatever. Look, you can sit here and say Columbus Day is too far. There's a lot of libs that want to get rid of Columbus Day because they don't recognize him. They don't, like that. Columbus isn't their guy. I get it. That's fine. I don't sit awake at night worrying about whether we have Columbus Day or not. Lump them all into one day. And whatever your thing is, that can be your day. How about middle-aged white guy holiday?
I'll celebrate the NFL. That's what I'm going to celebrate.
NFL Day. That's fine. Exactly right. But I just call it Citizens Day and have it the day after the Super Bowl.
I like that.
And let's close it down and let's lump 4 or 5 of these in there and not have as many holidays. I'm perfectly fine. But if the company's Cumulus, if you're listening, if you want to give us just more personal time off, that's great. Allow us to have those days.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it. We're not afraid for that. Have a great weekend. Mark, great to have you back, buddy. Have a good one.
Thank you.